Hey, listeners, I wanted to get in here quick and do an introduction. Welcome to Saddle Up Live. I am so thrilled that you are here. And if you are coming from my podcast, Doing Divorce Different, and you know about what's happening here, you might want to just take a little breath and not listen so much to me right now because I've already said this. But what I want you to know is that I'm so thrilled to be here and that these first 4 episodes kind of have wonky audio, and that is because I recorded them um, in Arizona and my microphone broke. So, but it's still really good content. It's really helpful information that's going to help you with your life. And that's what this is all about. We want to learn to suffer less. And here's the kind of interesting thing. Like I said, if you listen to Doing Divorce Different, you know that I am super blessed. I've had early detection. I have a 98% good outcome. I have all these good things, but I do have breast cancer. And when I was recording these episodes, I didn't have breast cancer. And so I have learned a little bit more since doing them. So I want you to listen to these and I want you to know this planner and this work has benefited me so much. And I am just starting to get back into using my planner. But I also want you to know I've spent 2 weeks going through a scary test, being afraid, and it was a big learning curve where I took everything moment by moment. And when I'm a little bit further away from this, we're going to circle back. And I want to talk through that because I want to be here to help you, whatever stage you're in, whatever your heart is, because there are some hearts that are paralyzing. And if you knew me, you know the health stuff is scary to me. I get scared getting my blood pressure taken. I mean, that's stupid, right? But it's my scary. And so, going through an MRI was scary. Waiting for the results for almost a week just about left me in a ball, but I gave it to God. I finally did. I wrestled and wrestled. And that doesn't mean that the fear doesn't keep popping in, but I just felt like I wanted to get in and introduce these first 4 episodes with this introduction so that you understand that this is really helpful information, but that I had something pop up that made me realize if you are in the midst something got a bomb got dropped on you, your spouse asked for a divorce, he had an affair, and you can't even you can't sit down and plan your day. You have to live moment by moment. We're going to get to that. We're going to talk more about that. And we're not only going to talk about cancer, we're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff through this podcast, things about how to get happy. That we have a hacking happy one that's going to be in the future, and being a mom and a grandma and starting a business when I was like 50. And it was so fun and awesome. And when your kids go off to college and when you have babies and being grandma and being a wife, that's a huge one that I've kind of let sit on the back burner. So this podcast is going to be so fun. And you can just email me if you have any ideas for the show. I'm happy. I'm just so thankful that this got started even before I knew what was happening with my life, because it just seems like it's all laying out where this needs to go. So I'm so thankful that you're here. Enjoy the episode. It is really, really good information. And I'm so sorry these first 4 episodes have kind of bad sound quality, and it'll get better from there. You take good care. Listen up. Welcome, listeners. This is take 2 of the Saddle Up segment this week with Tracy, Coach Tracy. I'm so happy to have her. And I promised all of you that we would delve deeper into the daily planner that we've been talking about in these Saddle Up segments. And I have told you how it's changed my life, how I look forward to doing it even on a Saturday, because I want to make a decision about how I want my day to go. So we've kind of gone through an overview. So if you want to get more information on that, go back to those past Saddle Up segments. But what we really want to do today is delve deeper into step 2. So step 1 is kind of taking a look at making a decision, what do I want today? And I was telling Tracy, interestingly enough, how I want to feel grateful that I'm in Arizona working. And I'm struggling with that today. I'm not quite there, which is one of the questions because it feels wonky. My dog was barking outside the door. I lost Tracy. I'm trying to, do this from a different, from my phone, and that wasn't working. So I'm being coached as we go. So I'm not feeling grateful. And so what we're delving into today are those judges that pop in, the saboteurs that come in that can wreak havoc on us having what we want. And Tracy on her website, Self Made You, has a free assessment that you can take, which I totally recommend because it helps you get an understanding of the saboteurs that pop up in your life. And the thing that I love about this planner, Tracy, which by the way, welcome, you're sitting there quietly. Thank you for sitting through another recording.
No problem.
But in her daily planner, she has a list of all of the saboteurs and how they affect you. And when I look at those, so I was thinking today, is this my normal people pleaser? And I thought, no, it's not. It's the stickler judge today because here's what it says, Tracy. Feelings of anxiety and frustration about disruption to carefully constructed order.
Right.
Bingo tickets.
Right.
That's what's happening to me today.
Yeah. And you too might be suffering from those stickler narratives, and how you're going to know whether you are believing saboteur type narratives is if you're feeling frustrated, disappointed, anxious, if you feel almost like a suppressed anger. These are like the effects of believing those stickler type narratives that Lisa's dealing with right now. So I some people can recognize that thought pattern, and other people can recognize the feelings that those thought patterns create. So I always like to kind of give you both, what it sounds like if it's not perfect, it's not going to be good enough. If we can't get this podcast recording in the first try perfectly, it's a complete fail, or I'm doing it wrong, or I'm a imposter, right? Like a lot of people who are suffering from those stickler type narratives, they also suffer with imposter syndrome. So um, I want you to be able to recognize this, not so that you beat yourself up or you identify as a stickler or you identify as a people pleaser. That's not the point. The point is just simply through the awareness that Lisa brought her primitive brain along for the ride all the way to Arizona. When she remembers that you're going to have those types of limiting beliefs, those are well established neural pathways. It's a part of your brain that's trying to avoid pain, seek pleasure, and be efficient, where it thinks the same thing over and over and over. Now you can just kind of have a little empathy for the human being that you are. You're less likely to layer on unnecessary suffering and judgment about the thought when you have this awareness of the fact that you didn't leave your primitive brain back in Minnesota. It came
Right.
with you. And so just remembering that, giving yourself a little space, holding space for the fact that you're going to have those thoughts and feelings is kind of crazy when you recognize, you guys, that is how you get everything you want from life, is when you allow the 50% wanted feelings and the 50% of the unwanted feelings to be there.
Yeah.
It's
And
such
it's
a
so telling, Tracy, because when I took that quiz, I was the hyperachiever and the people pleaser. And that hyperachiever is coming out right now because I'm sitting here thinking I should have had this all ironed out so that this wouldn't have happened when I'm in the middle of recording a podcast. And so I'm judging myself that I'm not doing it good enough, and so, and then I just love that I can sit with this and feel uncomfortable. I am a person learning to
Mhm.
feel that uncomfortable, just like you said. And I am going to take all the joy out of this Arizona trip that I can, the sunshine, the seeing my daughter who's in college, the grandkids coming later on. And it's okay to learn that this isn't how I want to work.
Yeah.
That's okay because how would I have known if I didn't do it? So there's the gift, which we're maybe jumping into what we're
Mhm.
going to talk about next week on the Saddle Up segment. They all kind of go together, how you can leverage strengths. But
Mhm.
first, you have to understand what those saboteurs are. And
Right.
me being able to look at this in your book, I mean, I'm being coached right on the spot, Johnny on the spot today, because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling, and I'm sitting here thinking, how am I feeling? I'm feeling unworthy. I'm feeling like that's a little bit, um, there's fear in that. There's fear of being unloved. There's fear of not doing it good enough. All those feelings that I don't really like to feel, but I'm
Exactly.
learning to. I'm learning to because I know it's part of life
Yes.
and it does get easier to feel those.
Right. And so what Lisa is like demonstrating for everybody in real time is the fact that you can shift from feeling fear because you're listening to primitive brain thoughts like it shouldn't be this way, or black and white thoughts that are very like concrete, like I have now learned that this isn't the way I want to work. Now that might be helpful, but it might not too. It's like that can be very black and white with your thinking. How
Right.
about where you went is I'm learning, right? I'm learning through this experience, and
Right.
think about how that makes you feel. That's way more open. That's
Yes.
it feels more like you're kind of allowing what may unfold instead of trying to control it and white knuckle it and be
Right.
really grippy with it, which is a tendency when you listen to those primitive brain narratives that say everything has to be perfect.
Right.
So understanding that there are around 10 saboteur narratives that are probably the most universal. The judge is the one that I think we all probably suffer the most from, where we feel guilt, regret, shame, disappointment, where we are in this pursuit of finding fault with ourself, with others, and with circumstances. But recognizing how universal it is. And so it doesn't make you a bad person because you're having those thoughts. It means that you are unintentionally listening and believing primitive brain thoughts,
Mhm.
and you want to like interrupt before you react. You just want
Right.
to notice it and have empathy for yourself like you did. That now that empathy will actually lead you to being able to leverage other strengths like discovery and innovation. But yes, we'll talk more about that next week. This week, the objective is to heighten everyone's awareness so that
Mhm.
you too can say, oh, there's the judge narrative. That's totally normal. I've
Yes.
thought that a million times. It's okay. I'm in a new environment. I'm learning
Yes.
about what it looks like to, work remote. I'm learning about what it looks like to bring my primitive brain even to Arizona, right?
Right.
It's so along with the judge, I would say the people pleaser is probably second in as far as most common, the one
Yep.
that so many people hear. And that's where people really have kind of a fear of expressing their true opinions. They think that it might jeopardize people's affection or acceptance, and so
Mhm.
they manipulate. Honestly, it's actually not a good place to have to live from, because you will end up feeling a lot of resentment
Yeah.
because you're often sacrificing what it is that you really want to kind of manipulate the experience and to,
Right.
try to make, so, quote unquote, or control somebody else's thoughts and feelings, which is absolutely impossible. So
Right.
that people pleaser can be pretty destructive.
Well, and I just want to say we've done a podcast on this, but that is one of my major ones. And we talked about how um, one night before I was going to bed, my husband wanted to watch something on TV. Remember this story,
Mhm.
Tracy? And I
Uh-huh.
said, "No."
Yep.
I said, "No, I want to read." Normally, I never say. Normally, I just do whatever somebody else wants because I just want them to be happy because that makes me comfortable.
Mhm.
So I said, "Well, I guess I'd rather read." And he got snarky about it. He didn't like it. He was crabby. He went to bed and I read, and then I didn't sleep because I was so uncomfortable that I had made him, it was my fault that he was unhappy.
Yeah.
And that's that people pleaser. Well, the morning came and he forgot about it, and it was no big deal. I had said what I wanted. And so this isn't easy, folks. Like, I have to keep doing this. I have to keep learning to sit with that uncomfortable feeling because I know from past experience that something can be uncomfortable and then get less uncomfortable. So the more that I do it, the more comfortable I'll feel. And then that resentment goes away because before I would be like, yeah, let's watch TV. And I'd be probably lying there feeling resentful that I was not doing what I really wanted to, but he had no idea, no way of knowing because I never said. So that's, I
Right.
think, a great example of a people pleaser.
Exactly. Yeah. The avoider is
Yeah.
another very common saboteur narrative where this is kind of interesting because this is where people tend to focus on the positive and pleasant in a very extreme way. So you start avoiding difficult and unpleasant tasks and you'll avoid any sort of conflict. So you'll be thinking thoughts like, this is just too much. Again, it'll feel like everything has to be done perfectly. If I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all. I don't want to upset anyone. So you can see there's a lot of overlap between
Yeah.
these narratives. There's subtle differences. I would say the biggest differences are how each of the narratives make you feel. So with the avoider, you start to feel anxiety and again a lot of suppressed anger. Sometimes you can almost be flat. That can be a feeling of an avoider. But one thing I really want to point out, regardless of which narratives you're listening to or you're hearing most often, they are actually steeped or they originate from your inherent strengths. So the person who suffers at the hand of the people pleaser narratives, that's a very empathetic person. The like inherent strengths of that person is they're very loving, they're very giving, they're very tuned into other people's feelings. They often have a high emotional intelligence. So what's happening is those strengths are actually being overused and abused. They're like overstimulated, and it actually
Yes.
can sabotage you. So what you want to do is you really kind of want to walk that line where you are able to leverage the inherent strength and become aware of when it tips into being overused and abused. The avoider is typically somebody who seeks like peace and harmony within themselves, within others. They're usually a very flexible, very adaptable, like easy to get along with,
Mhm.
non-judgmental person. So those are the inherent strengths of the avoider. The controller, these are the confident, action-oriented, decisive, willful, persistent people. They have an ability to do the right thing even in unpopular like situations or
Mhm.
experiences or circumstances. The hyperachiever, these are the very driven, pragmatic, goal oriented, adaptable people, but they will suffer from vulnerability. They'll suffer from feeling unworthy. They'll often feel depressed because they're listening to thoughts like, there's always room for improvement. This is never going to be good enough. I can't be satisfied. If I don't succeed, I'm a failure. So do you see how, it is this fine line? So it's through awareness. There are no other, strategies or complicated actions that you have to worry about doing, you
Mhm.
guys, it's through awareness. So if there's one takeaway, go to the website and take the saboteur assessment so
Yeah.
that you have a heightened sense of awareness around what thoughts you're prone to hearing. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't identify you. It helps you. It arms you with what to be on the lookout for so that you eliminate the risk of self sabotage. Step one is when you decided what it is that you want. We proactively eliminate sabotaging what it is that you want by having an awareness around what it is that you're prone to hearing. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
It's so good, Tracy, and it's a good spot to end this week's. So, and I think too, it's so fun to have the people in your life take the assessment as well because it helps you understand them and and it helps you communicate better. We've done that, in my family. So that's what I would just ask everyone to do and then join us next week. We're going to be coming from Arizona again, maybe smoothly, maybe not. But we're going to talk about how to leverage those strengths in more detail. So, Tracy, this was so helpful. Thank you for going through those and for working with me and for doing a double podcast because of my circumstances here
No
today.
problem. No problem.
All right, honey, take good care.
Bye-bye.